Hey guys, it's Chintan Pendit, and today I'm in Beck Hall in the lecture theatre, and I'll be going over another black pen, the Conklin Conklinetta Sr. Now, I tend to gravitate towards either completely black pens or demonstrators or completely metal pens because it gives me some flexibility with the ink I can use. If I buy a colored pen, I tend to want to use an ink with that color in it, but like black pens or demonstrators and completely metal pens give me some sort of flexibility. It's a rather old design for pen. I think it was made sometime in the 1920s. And if you look at really old pens, you know most of them are either lever fillers or crescent fillers, Conklin, or maybe even like plate fillers, and they all have bladders. This is a button filler, which uses the button to squeeze the barrel, let all the air out, and then once you put it in the ink and leave the button, it sucks up all the ink. It's a rather simple design, and I'll explain the filling mechanism when I go to the in-depth review. But because this is kind of a vintage pen, I think it was designed sometime in the 1920s, I kind of want to use, or I tend to use generally, a vintage ink. It's a screw-type cap with a rather old design, again 1920s-ish. It's a button filler. Now because it's a button filler and has a bladder in it, I tend to use safer ink in it, usually a Lamy Black or maybe Pelikan 4001 Brilliant Black, or maybe even a Parker Quake. I'll explain the filling mechanism to you when I go over the barrel of the pen. It's a rather simple design and it's slightly understated. People might think this is just a weird ballpoint until you actually unscrew the cap and then they see the nib. I'm going to go from top to bottom, explain each aspect of the pen, tell you what I like about it and I don't like about it, and then we're going to go to the writing sample. But before I start, I'm just going to get a sip of water because my throat is kind of parched. Okay, that was good. Okay, so let's start with the cap. The finial is completely rounded off, it's completely hemispherical, and it's very, very, very simple. Right below the hemispherical finial, there is absolutely no step down. It's a straight cap, which is interjected by a very, very nice clip. I tend to love clips like this. When I say like this, I mean spring loading. This is a very nice springy clip. It's pretty strong. It's not going to go over a shirt pocket real quick, but if you do that, expand the clip, and then it's going to go over absolutely anything. I don't want to put this over a jeans pocket, mainly because of the filling mechanism. The clip is very similar to every other Conklin that's out there, except for the Conklin Duragraphs. The Duragraphs have a very, very simple clip. This is spring-loaded and it is kind of indented in halfway through. The top part of the clip, or the wider part of the clip, has the Conklin logo embossed in it. Right below the clip, there's about maybe a centimeter, like 9 millimeters, before a small taper. Now, right after the taper starts, there's a small band which you can see. It's gray. You can see it, but you can't feel it with your thumb. If you put a nail in there, you'll be able to feel it. Now, the reason for the taper is to actually transition seamlessly to the barrel. Now, even though they try to do it, they can't, because if they make the taper too thin, then the cap becomes too flimsy. So there is a slight step down to the barrel. Now, in the front of the barrel, it's engraved with Conklin Sr, and right below it, in a smaller font, it says Made in Italy. Right below that is where the filling mechanism starts. Now there is a small ring that actually helps lock the button. The button has a very simple function, is just to compress the bladder, and when you release the button, it kind of springs back up. There is a delayed spring to it, but it's pretty significant once you actually see it and once it's in your hand. So in order to fill it, you have to unlock the ring, press the button, and then just leave it and give it a few seconds while the nib is completely submerged in ink. And when you're done, you actually lock the ring back around. What I tend to find is the ring doesn't completely catch on, so what I do is I put the ring back in here, and then I press the button just slightly, and then I push the ring all the way back, and then it securely locks it in. Right below the filling mechanism, there's a small taper which ends in a flat finial or flat-ish finial. You can't stand the pen at all, but doesn't seem rounded off way too much. Now the taper has a very simple function, and that's to post. The pen posts very securely. It's not going anywhere at all. The cap unscrews, and right under it you can find a very thin part of the pen which houses the threads. Now the threads are slightly sharp, but because the length is so small you can barely feel it. Right below the thread, the section tapers towards a kind of ring that holds your fingers in place, or holds your fingers and prevents them from actually touching the nib. Now this is a kind of section whose design I really like. It's great for everyone. If you're a lefty, you can use it. If you're a righty, you can use it as well. And it's not like, it doesn't force you to have a particular grip, like maybe the Lamy Safari or the Vista or the All Star or even the Crispy Eagle. It doesn't kind of force that grip. Right above that small indent is the standard number 6 Conklin nib. Now the Conklin nibs tend to be more springy than others because of the crescent-shaped hole on it. This is a two-tone nib with a silver color, and the only thing that's gold is the Conklin logo. Right below the Conklin logo, it's written Toledo and USA. Now this is a medium nib, and I kind of like where they put that engraving of the nib size, which is on the right side. Now Monteverde does this. I think it's the Jaffa nibs that do this. The whole nib and the feed unit can be completely screwed off and replaced with another nib and feed unit from either a Monteverde pen or even a Conklin pen. You can also completely just remove this nib out and swap a number 6 nib on this. It's a standard size. I tend to not like this nib, or like Conklin nibs in general. Monteverde nibs are a different story, but I don't like Conklin nibs in general just because, one, they're too springy and they let way too much ink out. I like that, and that's amazing if you have a really good paper. But if you're stuck in college with kind of cheap inkjet paper or even laser paper, it's not the best. If you have Rhodia, it performs phenomenally, and you'll see that in the right example. There's a lot of flex to it, which is allowed by the crescent-shaped breather hole, which you again see in the right example. I've been talking way too much about the right example, so let's just move to that real quick, and I'll see you guys soon.
Alright guys, this is a review of the Conklin Conklinetta Sr, and this is the medium nib. The ink is Pelikan 4001 Brilliant Black. This is what the ink looks like, and this is, oops, it's kind of still wet, and this is it against Lamy Black and Monteverde Black. Now, this ink is less saturated than Lamy Black, but both of these, Lamy Black as well as Pelikan Brilliant Black, are much blacker than Monteverde Black, which is slightly blue. You can't see it here very well, but it's slightly blue once you lay it on pretty flat. This is a very vintage ink in my sense, because it is the first bottled ink I ever owned, or maybe actually the first ink I might ever have used, and this was like 2004 maybe, when I was 7 something. Yep, when I was 7, this is the first bottle of ink I bought from India. Alright, so now let's continue with the writing sample. Okay, it's slightly skipping just because I have... Ooh, that's kind of cool. Ooh, that's so cool. That's a new feature my phone has. It's kind of skipping because maybe there's no ink in this. And that's the bad part about this pen. You can't see the ink level. Now, I kind of wish they made a demonstrative version of this, but this is not in production anymore. But let's just push through, all right? Let's try with some flex. Okay, there is actually no ink in this. There is no ink in this, and that's the issue with this. Let me just try priming this pen real quick. Oh, there is ink. Okay, so let's try with some flex. Now, because of the crescent-shaped breather hole, the nib does flex quite a bit if there is enough ink in here. It does flex quite a bit if there is enough ink in here. It's a pretty wet nib just because it lays down a very, very large amount of ink. Because again, it flexes quite a bit. And the ink it lays out on the downstroke is again much more than the ink it lays on the side stroke. Let's try with some normal flex. Yeah, you can see it. This ink is very much still very, very wet. Like here, it's not drying at all. I'll have to like blot it. If you like wet pens that are rather thin, this is the way to go. I just suggest you have it completely inked up every single time. Let's try with signature. Okay, that's because it's not filled with ink. That's completely my fault. I don't have a bottle of ink with me to quickly fill this up. But usually it doesn't tend to skip on me like this at all. There's a skip here, there's a skip there, and some very slight skipping over there. Generally, I should mention that this is a very, very nice pen. It hasn't skipped on me until now, and I've only filled this thing up once. That was the quick writing sample. I'm sorry about not filling this pen up real quick. Right, so that was the writing sample. I'm really sorry this pen wasn't filled up. I couldn't do it justice, but I'll have to go back all the way home to fill it up, and I don't think that's worth it right now. But take my word on it. Just trust me on this. It's a very, very wet pen. It writes brilliantly. If you switch out the nib, it's with a nib that you like, it's gonna do you wonders. All right. That's it with the writing sample, and I'll see you guys soon.
All right, thanks guys. That's it from me for the Conklin Conklinetta Sr. It's a pretty nice pen, in my opinion. It's switched out the nib, but for people who do like Conklin nibs, it's a steal for about $100. You can find them at about 90, maybe $80 if you're lucky on eBay. This is a friend's pen, and I traded one of my pens just for this review. I kind of wish I could hold on to this for a little longer, but I kind of think he wants it back. Alright, thanks guys. I'm Chin again from the Pendit. I hope you like that, and until I see you next time, stay safe. Hey guys.